Ever stop to think about why basketball positions are named guards or forwards in the first place? What's the real reason we have these specific titles in the game? Well, today we're going to uncover the history and logic behind these terms. Trust me, this is the kind of deep dive you won't find anywhere else. Only here on Sports Frenzy TV. First off, let's talk about the traditional positions in basketball, which have changed a lot over the years. At one point, basketball positions were named based on their roles, but over time they transitioned to numbers for simplicity. The positions we know today are labeled 1 through 5. The 1 is the point guard, 2 is the shooting guard, 3 is the small forward, 4 is the power forward, and 5 is the center. Now, you might be wondering why we switched from names to numbers. Well, it's pretty simple. Numbers are just easier to write on a whiteboard. If you've ever coached or played, you know that the number 5 is way quicker to jot down the center. So let's break it down a bit more. The center is the big guy in the middle of the court, usually standing under the basket. The position's name actually comes from how the center used to play a central role in the game, both literally and figuratively. Back in the day, the center was the player who was involved in jump balls after every basket. And he was usually the one positioned right in the middle of the court. It's kind of crazy to think about now, but back then, the game was different. The center's job was mostly to guard the rim and rebound, but they also were often the primary scoring option for their team. What's interesting is that the center's position has evolved a lot over the years. Take Bill Russell, for example. He's widely regarded as one of the greatest centers of all time. Russell wasn't just known for his size though. He was a good offensive player and a dominant force on defense. But what's crazy is that his stats for things like blocks aren't even available because back in his era, blocks weren't tracked. Imagine how many would have had if that stat existed back then. In terms of rebounding, Russell's numbers are insane. He averaged 22 rebounds per game over his career, and in the playoffs, that number shot up to 25. For comparison, the leader in rebounds last season was Domantas Sabonis with 13.7 per game. That's a huge difference. But here's the thing, the game has changed. Centers today are a lot more skilled than they were in Russell's time. While Russell's job was mainly about being a physical presence and protecting the rim, modern centers have a wider skill set. They still protect the rim, of course, but they also have to step out and guard players in the mid-range and beyond the arc. Think about someone like Brook Lopez. Early in his career, he rarely shot threes, but over time, he transformed his game. In fact, in the last 8 seasons, he shot over 2,600 threes. This was a major shift for him, showing that he adapted to how the game was evolving. Modern centers, in addition to playing close to the rim, need to be versatile. Some can even shot threes or pass like a guard. This shift in the role of centers is just one example of how positions in basketball are changing. Today's game is a lot more fluid, and positions aren't as rigid as they used to be. There are players who can do a little bit of everything, which makes it harder to classify them strictly as guards or forwards. But let's take a closer look at each position and see what they actually do, starting with the point guard. The point guard is probably the easiest position to recognize. Traditionally, the point guard is a player who brings the ball up the court and sets up the offense. You'll often hear them called floor generals because they're responsible for running the show. Think about players like Chris Paul, Tyrese Haliburton, or Fred VanVleet. These guys are known for their ability to distribute the ball, get teammates involved, and set up scoring opportunities. But today's point guards don't just facilitate the offense, they also score. A lot of point guards are responsible for their team's offense, like Steph Curry and Damian Lillard. While they might have been known as pass-first players in the past, modern point guards are just as likely to put up 30 points in a game as they are to dish out 10 assists. Then we have the shooting guard, often the team's best shooter. Traditionally, the shooting guard has been the player who can score from just about anywhere on the court, particularly from long range. Think of guys like Klay Thompson, Donovan Mitchell, and Bradley Beal. The shooting guard is typically more ball dominant than the point guard and is often tasked with creating their own shot. While point guards are typically seen as playmakers, shooting guards are usually seen as scorers. They're the ones who will take that clutch shot when the game is on the line. Now, when we get to the forwards, things get a little more complicated. Small forwards, or the three as they're called, are often the most versatile players on the court. They're typically a little bigger than guards but still need to be fast and agile. Small forwards are responsible for scoring in a variety of ways, whether it's driving to the basket, hitting mid-range shots, or shooting from beyond the arc. They're the jack-of-all-trades players who need to be good at almost everything. Some of the best small forwards in the league are LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, and Kevin Durant. These players are elite at scoring, but they also play solid defense and can rebound. That's why small forwards are often the highest paid players in the league. They combine size with skill, which is extremely valuable. Power forwards are a bit closer to setters in terms of their responsibilities on the court. They're often tasked with rebounding and rim protecting, just like a center, but they also need to have a strong offensive game. The difference between a center and a power forward is that the power forward tends to be a little more versatile offensively. While a center is mostly stationed near the rim, a power forward has the ability to step outside and shoot, or pass to drive to the basket. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a great example of a modern power forward. He does all the things a classic power forward does, but he also has the skills of a guard. Giannis brings the ball up the floor like a point guard, scores like a shooting guard, and rebounds like a center. He's a nightmare matchup because of his size and versatility. Now, let's talk about the future of basketball. It seems like the game is moving away from traditional positions altogether. Players are becoming more and more versatile, and it's not uncommon to see someone like Nikola Jokic, a center, handling the ball and running the offense. Jokic is a rare talent. He's a center, but is also the best passer on his team, which is not something you see every day. Jokic plays in the center of the court, but when he gets the ball, it's almost impossible to predict what he's going to do with it. He's not just a rim protector, he's also a playmaker, and that's what makes him so special. Players like Jokic, Joel Embiid, and Sabonis are leading the way in this evolution. They're centers who can pass, shoot, and handle the ball like guards. It's becoming clear that in the future, we may not see as many players strictly confined to one position. The best players are the ones who can do a little bit of everything. And if a player stagnates in their development, other teams will exploit that weakness. So, if you're a player trying to make it in today's NBA, you need to have a versatile game. Alright, I think that's all for today's breakdown. Thanks for sticking around. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it and leave a comment below. I respond to every comment, so feel free to share your thoughts or give suggestions for future videos. Thanks for watching and see you next time.